4 years ago, the dinosaurs got loose, and now they live everywhere. In our forests, on our highways, even in our oceans. Out in the freezing Bering Sea, a fishing crew is hauling in their catch when the water erupts beneath them. Something the size of their boat rises out of the deep, swallows the sea around them, and drags the whole vessel under. No one comes to save them. This is simply the world now, humans and dinosaurs forced to share one planet and barely surviving it. On a dark cattle ranch, a woman creeps through the shadows with a hidden camera, filming row after row of caged animals. This is Claire Deering, the woman who once ran the dinosaur park, and she has spent every night since trying to tear that world down, because she is the one who helped build it. The guilt drives her. She is here to prove this ranch is breeding dinosaurs in secret and selling them off for profit. Deep in the pens she finds a sick newborn, trembling and abandoned, and she cannot bring herself to leave it behind. She takes it and slips back into the night with her partners Zia and Franklin. They get the little one out alive, but the mood is heavy. Franklin tells them he is quitting all of this for a real job, a government desk somewhere he thinks he can do more good. It sounds like nothing. Remember it anyway, because that boring desk job is the exact thing that will save all their lives later. Far away in the snowy mountains, a man rides on horseback, driving a herd of dinosaurs across open country like cattle. When one of them panics and bolts, he does not reach for a weapon. He raises an open hand, slows his breathing, and the animal settles right down. This is Owen Grady, and he understands these creatures from the inside, the way most people never will. He is patient, steady, and exactly the kind of man you want around when everything starts to go wrong. Owen and Claire are together now, living off the grid in a remote cabin, and they are not alone. They are quietly raising a girl named Macy, and they keep her hidden from the entire world. Because Macy is not an ordinary teenager. She is the only cloned human being who has ever existed, and powerful people would do anything to get their hands on her and study her. So the two of them live like ghosts, always watching the tree line, always afraid of the day someone finds her. But Macy is still a teenager, and to her the cabin feels less like a home and more like a cage. She sneaks into town against every rule they have given her, hungry to be normal, hungry to be seen. And she is searching for something else too. On her bedroom wall she has pinned photographs of her mother, Charlotte Lockwood, and scraps of anything that might explain where she came from. That single question, who am I really, is the quiet engine running underneath this entire story. Out in the woods near the cabin lives the famous raptor, Blue, and beside her moves something that should not be possible, a baby. Blue never had a mate, and yet she has produced a child entirely on her own, living proof that life always finds a way. Macy has named the little one Beta. Owen quietly watches over both mother and child from a distance, careful never to break the trust. Hold on to this baby raptor, because she is about to become the reason Owen risks everything he has. Now a second danger opens up, far bigger than any single animal. In West Texas, a swarm of locusts the size of dogs drops out of the sky and strips a farm bare in minutes, sending a family's children running for the barn doors. These are not natural insects. They are enormous. They breed without any limit, and they are eating the country alive, field by field. A scientist named Dr. Ellie Sattler comes to investigate, and one detail stops her cold. The swarm devoured every field for miles, except one. And she works at the horror behind it. These locusts were built in a lab, and the only crops they refuse to eat are the ones grown from a single company's seed. Whoever made them is quietly trying to seize control of the world's food supply, and if no one stops the swarm, it will starve the whole planet inside of a year. Every clue points to one name, a company called Biosyn. Ellie carries one of the locusts to an old friend, Dr. Alan Grant, who has buried himself in a quiet fossil dig. Far from the living world he wants nothing to do with anymore. She sets the creature down in front of him, and slowly draws him back into the fight he swore he had walked away from for good. The two of them clearly share a long history, and she needs him for what comes next. The reason they can get inside Biosyn at all is the third of these old survivors, Dr. Ian Malcolm, who now works for the company as its in-house philosopher. He has secretly invited Ellie in to gather proof from the inside, so without any of them realizing it yet, two separate roads are aiming at the very same mountain. The scientists are following the locusts toward Biosyn, and the people raising Macy are about to be dragged there too. Back near the cabin, Macy quietly approaches Beta and feeds her by hand. The lonely girl and the lonely creature pull toward each other, but that closeness invites danger. The fiercely protective mother, Blue, appears out of the trees, tense and watching, and Owen has to step in carefully to calm them both before anyone gets hurt. What none of them notice is that Macy has spent far too long out in the open, and somewhere beyond the trees, unseen eyes have finally found the cabin. And then, in a single morning, the hidden life is ripped apart. A crew of traffickers, led by a cold operative named Soyona Santos, ambushes Macy on an old bridge and seizes her, and they take the baby raptor Beta in the very same strike. Owen races out but reaches them too late. The grieving mother Blue turns on him and roars, blaming the man who failed to protect her child. In that one cruel moment, the two people raising Macy and this raptor have each lost the child in their care. Owen makes Blue a silent promise. He will bring her baby home. He carries that promise all the way to the end. With Macy gone, Owen and Claire have nothing to go on until they remember Franklin. That boring government job he took turns out to be inside the CIA's Dangerous Species Division, and now his access is the only door left open to them. He points them toward a black market on the island of Malta, where stolen dinosaurs and their DNA are bought and sold to the highest bidder. The throwaway moment from the very start has just become their one and only path forward. Meanwhile, Alan and Ellie arrive at Biosyn itself, a gleaming fortress carved into the mountains. A smooth young host named Ramsay Cole walks them through it with a polished smile. They meet the weary geneticist Dr. Henry Wu, the man who, as we will learn, actually built those locusts in the first place. And above all of them sits Dodgson, the man who owns this entire empire and answers to no one. Watch two people very closely inside these walls. Watch Wu, who carries the look of a man weighed down by something he has done and cannot take back. And watch Ramsay, the smiling host, who seems just slightly too uneasy about his own company. Both of those small details are seeds, and both of them pay off later in ways no one in this room expects. For now, Biosyn looks spotless, generous, and completely in control. On Malta, Owen and Claire find a sharp mercenary pilot named Kayla Watts, who knows this world and agrees to fly them in. Together they descend into the underground of the dinosaur trade, a filthy maze of cages, buyers, and animals bred to fight each other for sport. They are hunting for the people who took Macy, but Soyona is already there, watching them from the shadows, and the instant the deal turns against them, she gives one quiet order that turns the entire city into a hunting ground. She releases a pack of trained killer raptors to run Owen and Claire down through the narrow streets, while gunmen track them from the rooftops above. It explodes into a breakneck chase, Owen tearing through Malta on a stolen motorcycle with raptors snapping at his heels and bullets cracking off the stone walls beside him. He cannot fight these animals, he can only outrun them, and the whole city is closing in. The trafficker who helped take Macy thinks he has slipped away, until the very animals he sold for money turn and corner him in an alley. He dies the same way his victims died. Owen, out of road and out of time, guns the motorcycle up a loading ramp and launches it straight into the open back of Kayla's cargo plane as it lifts off the runway. They escape with their lives, and with one crucial piece of news. Macy and the baby raptor have already been flown to Biosyn. Inside Biosyn, Macy is locked in a sterile lab with Dr. Wu, and here the deepest secret of her life finally surfaces. Watching old recordings that span years, she begins to piece together the truth of her own creation. Her mother, Charlotte Lockwood, was never just a face on her bedroom wall. She was a brilliant Biosyn scientist, and she was dying of a disease written into her own body, with no cure anywhere in the world. So Charlotte did something no one had ever done. Knowing she could not save herself, she created a daughter from her own DNA, a clone named Macy, and then she rewrote the deadly disease out of Macy's genes, so that her child could live even though she herself could not, which means Macy was never a copy of some stranger. She is Charlotte's own daughter, made to outlive her, and because Charlotte erased a fatal disease from a living person, Macy's body now carries the proof that sickness can be edited out of a creature entirely. The question Macy chased her whole life, who am I, turns out to be the answer to the locust plague itself. And at the very instant that truth lands, the locust lab on the same floor bursts open. The engineered swarm floods over its handlers, alarms scream through the building, and in the chaos Macy sees her one chance and bolts into the corridors. The timing is no accident. The secret of who she is, and the disaster that makes the whole world need her, arrive in the very same breath. As the rescue team finally reaches the snowbound sanctuary, a giant flying reptile slams into Kayla's plane in midair and rips the side wide open. In the chaos, Claire is thrown clear, parachuting down alone into the freezing forest far below, while the plane spirals down with Owen and Kayla still trapped inside. In a single terrible minute, the people who came to save Macy are scattered into separate corners of the wilderness, each of them now completely alone. Claire comes down right in the territory of a massive clawed predator, and she survives the only way she possibly can. She sinks beneath the surface of a still green pond and holds her breath, while the animal hunts inches above her face, its claws breaking the water around her. She lives, but she surfaces soaked, freezing, and utterly alone, with no way of knowing if anyone else made it down alive. This is the lowest point, the moment the story splinters into a desperate search to find each other again. Owen and Kayla survive their own crash and push out into the forest to look for Claire. But here, they are not the top of the food chain. They are forced to freeze and hide as two enormous predators tear into each other right beside them, close enough to feel the ground shake. They stay perfectly still, two tiny people caught between giants, praying neither one of them looks down. Underground, Alan, Ellie and Macy are trying to escape through Biosyn's old amber mine, and someone on the inside is secretly guiding them out. It is Ramsay, and now we finally understand his unease from the very start. He was never disloyal. He is the whistleblower who fed Malcolm the evidence, and he is risking his own life to get them free, feeding them gate codes through a radio as a small feathered predator hunts them through the dark. Ramsay opens the last gate just in time, and the cave group breaks free into the open air. Above ground, Owen and Kayla push deeper into the trees, and at last they find Claire, alive. After everything they have been through apart, the three of them are finally together again. But there is no safety to be found here. They are trapped deep inside a sanctuary crawling with loose monsters, and the entire valley is about to go up in flames. Because by now Dodgson has realized the Locust disaster will be traced straight back to him, and instead of trying to fix it, he does the most damning thing in this entire story. He deletes the research, and he triggers a purge that sets his whole Locust colony on fire, standing perfectly still to watch them burn behind the glass. But fire does not obey a coward. It leaps out of the lab and begins to swallow the whole compound around him. The man has just set his own escape route alight. And now the two halves of the story finally crash into one. Owen, Claire, Macy, Kayla, Alan, Ellie and Malcolm all reach the same burning building at the same moment. Owen shoves through the smoke and finds Macy, and the entire reason for the rescue pays off in a single embrace. But there is no time to feel any of it, because a giant predator is already stalking toward them through the firelight. Their escape becomes a gauntlet. Ellie grabs a herding device, and the group tears through the inferno in a Biosyn vehicle, driving straight through a wall of fire, with a predator running alongside them, close enough to take the doors off. They survive it, barely, every one of them shaken, because they have understood something simple and terrifying. The fire and the animals do not care who is innocent. Everyone in this valley is just prey now. Their goal sharpens into two things: get everyone out alive, and carry the proof of Biosyn's crime out with them. Ellie and Claire fight their way to the Locust sample, the one piece of evidence that can expose the entire conspiracy. And Ian Malcolm, the man who spent his whole life only warning people about danger, finally acts, shoving a burning torch straight into a predator's jaws to drive it back. The thinker becomes a fighter at the exact moment it matters most. But the way out is sealed. The system that clears the sky so a helicopter can land safely has gone offline, throwing an error, and the old controls have to be powered back up before anyone can fly out of here. And the fire is already climbing the walls around them. The only clock that matters now is how long until those flames reach them first. Ramsay finally turns on Dodgson to his face, refusing to go down with him, naming him out loud as the cause of all of it. Abandoned by everyone, Dodgson snatches a stolen sample to save his own skin and flees alone into the dark transport tunnels, certain that money and a head start are all he needs to walk away clean. He is wrong. In the black of the tunnel, the small predators find him, corner him, and bring him down, his stolen sample still clutched in his hands. The man who treated every living thing as something to own and sell dies in the dark, exactly the way the people he sold to died, torn apart by the very animals he built his fortune on. While Dodgson dies in the dark, the others are turning the tide. Owen finally tracks down the loose baby raptor and gently darts her to sleep, keeping the promise he made to Blue back at the cabin all those days ago. And Malcolm reroutes the power and brings the deterrent system roaring back to life, clearing the sky for the helicopter at last. Everything they have bled for begins, finally, to come together. Then Dr. Wu, The very man who built the locusts drops to his knees and begs the group for one chance to undo it. He explains that the cure lies inside Macy. The same gene editing that Charlotte discovered runs through her, and with it he can engineer something that wipes the swarm out for good. And Macy, the girl who spent this whole story desperate just to know what she was, chooses to give the answer away freely. The very thing that made her hunted across the world becomes the thing that saves it. Running for the helicopter, the survivors are cornered by the Vala's giant predators, with nowhere left to run, and then the beasts turn on each other instead of the humans. In a brutal clash against a wall of fire, the largest of them is dragged down by two others, and the path is suddenly, impossibly clear. It is nature itself, not the heroes, that decides who walks out of this valley alive. Kayla flies them all out of the fire with seconds to spare, and they come down at a mountain airfield in the gray light of dawn, battered, exhausted, but alive. And in the quiet after all that chaos, the warmth between Alan and Ellie, held back across decades, finally surfaces in a single kiss. The three old survivors who started this whole story do not just live through it, they come home to each other. Now every loose thread comes together. Ramsay and the old scientists testify before the Senate and bring Dodson's empire crashing down. And Wu, finally crediting Charlotte's work out loud, releases an engineered cure that sweeps the locust swarms out of the sky over a healing golden field, stopping the famine before it can ever begin. The corruption is dragged into the light, and the very science that started the disaster is what finally heals it. The valley is declared a protected sanctuary, where dinosaurs can finally live free, and Blue is reunited with her stolen baby at last. Owen, Claire and Macy stand together and watch the raptors walk back into the wild. After all of it, the three of them can finally stop hiding and live out in the open. The girl who started this story belonging to no one finally has people of her own. And Owen, watching the animals run free, is at peace. And so it closes on one last, sweeping vision of the world that has been fighting to be born this entire time. Dinosaurs and the animals of today, sharing the same planet at last. Herds cross the plain side by side. Flocks of every kind fill the sky together, and an ancient sea creature glides peacefully beside a whale. And in the final image, an elephant, a horned dinosaur, and a handful of small animals walk together into a savanna sunset. It all comes down to one quiet picture. This is one world now, and the only way any of them survive is to share it. So here is the question for you. If you were Macy, carrying the one secret that could save the entire world but would also leave you hunted for the rest of your life, would you give it away freely the way she did, or would you protect yourself first? Tell me what you would do down in the comments. And if this story pulled you in, do me a favor, drop a like and subscribe, because the next one is already on the way.